roll the way up. All right, so if everyone's ready to go, I think I'm ready to go. Here we go. I'm going to push a couple buttons, and then we'll be quiet, and then some stuff will play, and there we go.
Welcome to the weekly episode of the Freelancer Codex podcast. Your host, Steven, and co-hosts Mike, Devon, and JD are all set. Join us and tweet your questions at Freelancer Codex. Find us on Facebook at Freelancer Codex, or send emails to freelancercodex@gmail.com. Strap into your javelins, and let's drop in.
Welcome, freelancers. Mike told me to slow down when I do this. I'm going to try to do this a little bit slower than I normally do, just for Mike's sake. So welcome to episode 112 of the Freelancer Codex podcast, the longest running Anthem podcast on the internet. I'm your host, Steve, along with three of my co-hosts and a special guest, Complex, or so do you go by Complex?
I do.
Or do you go like food, then games? Because food, then games, that's like you got your priorities straight, you get your food, and then you go play games. So
and then rinse and repeat.
Rinse and repeat. And a
couple other shampoo conscious person. I like it.
So Complex, I started watching your stuff recently. I think I found when I was looking through the Season of Skulls, you posted a couple videos, and I was scrolling through the Anthem subreddit, and I found your videos there. Started watching them. Really appreciated the content that you produced around Anthem, because it seems in a day and age where people lead up their videos with 5 minutes of talking before they get to it, you get right to the chase. And you just put out really good content that's easy to digest and very informative. So I really appreciated that about your content. So I reached out, and you, for some reason, agreed to come on our show, which is kind of still surprising me that people agree to come on the show. So we really appreciate it. So can you tell the internet a little bit about yourself, where they can find you, most importantly, so that they can watch your videos and people can actually know how to do the puzzles in the strongholds that get released?
Yeah. Absolutely. Thank you guys for having me. You can find me on YouTube. I do have a also Twitch. I Twitch all the time. We Twitch, we YouTube, we have Twitter, Discord, all that good stuff. That's how you can generally find me. I'm a massive foodie. I love video games. I especially love BioWare games. So Anthem was just always a natural thing for me to play. I love doing Anthem videos though.
So what about Anthem draws you in? Because I know people love Mass Effect for the relationships, the companions, the RPG elements. So what specifically about Anthem is calls to you and says, "Hey, I got to cover this"?
Well, I originally wanted to play Anthem because I was a huge and am still a huge Mass Effect fan. I loved MEAMP. That was a lot of fun to play both on stream and off stream. So Anthem just kind of seemed like a natural progression from there. But once I started diving into the world, I really love the Anthem lore. They've done such a good job with building up a rich lore base that can really go a lot of different places, that I'm very excited to see what stories they craft from that. Even with something as simple as the Cataclysm, they built up Harkin to be a really cool bad guy. He's not just a bad guy to be a bad guy. There's a purpose and a story, and I'm really excited to see where that can go.
Yeah, I'm excited for that same reason, because if you dive into the lore, if you dive into the Cortex, there's some really cool stuff that they can spin off. And I hope they get a chance to do that in 2.0, that they get to focus on story so that lore is more of a upfront and upfront in your face part of the game, because I really enjoy it. I think in Anthem as we have it right now, having all that stuff behind the Cortex and not much else out there kind of does the story team a disservice, because there's some pretty amazing story in the Cortex, and I just want to see more of it. So we're very glad that you agreed to come on here, because now we actually have an expert that can tell us what we're doing wrong in the strongholds. So that'll help a lot. JD, pay attention, okay? But first of all, so this is episode 112. So we've been doing this for a really long time. So
we talked about this last time. 112.
Okay, so it's been 321 days since the launch, right? We are quickly coming up next month. Anthem will have been released for a full year, which is kind of crazy to think about, because it feels like it's been out longer than that. I don't know if it's because of the ups and downs of the game that we feel like it's been a lot longer, but I'm excited to see where year 2 takes us, because I'm guessing year 2 will also include Anthem 2.0. But at the beginning of a new year, so Devon, you had a question for all of us, and if you want to answer it, you can. If you don't want to answer it, because making resolutions is hard for me. So Devon posited a question for us. It's like, what? So if you have any New Year's resolutions, what are they? And Devon, we'll start with you, and then we'll jump into Anthem stuff.
Yeah, so I just put what is, a New Year's resolution. So I put for me for the month of January, I am not going to have any fast food, right? So that's something
Very
I'm
cool.
shooting for. I told everybody at work, and they all laughed at me, so I figured that there's probably a problem there. If they're all laughing.
What's your definition of fast food?
So
How much time does it take? Does it have a drive-through if it's fast food?
anything- So yeah, I mean, if it's got a drive-through, then it's most likely fast food. I mean, I can go like to Subway, right? That's still fast, obviously, but it's not like greasy food, heavy foods, things like that, or food that is heavily processed, that kind of stuff. So, like if my kids really like to go to Chick-fil-A. Not a sponsor, obviously. We don't, but they have great salads. So I'm like, yeah, it's fine. We can go to Chick-fil-A still. I'll just get a salad. So, yeah, pretty
So
much.
you don't want to have gross food, is what you're saying.
No, I mean, obviously, I have no problem eating Taco Bell, McDonald's, all that kind of stuff. And so I was like, well, you know what? I'm going to try, well, for two reasons. One, because, I'm trying to lose some weight. And then two, to see how much money I actually waste on fast food instead of just making my food. So I'm kind of judging that, based off of where it is and seeing how much money I'm wasting, since this year is going to be an expensive year for technology for me. So
I understand. So Complex, as a foodie, do you take umbrage with Devon like cutting out, Taco Bell, or is Taco Bell off your list also?
It's generally just not off. It's just not on my list. I don't really do a ton of fast food. We actually have a rule in the house where if we're not going to go physically pick up food, we don't get takeout. And I just cook far, far too much for us to ever have room for takeout. So unless it's like a special thing with like family, but yeah, no, we don't do takeout.
Do you have like? I'll have to ask you after. I'll ask you a food question after JD goes. So JD, you said you want to be Presbyterian. Are you changing religions here? Is that...
Oh,
that's not what at all.
Oh, that's
That's a good one.
pescatarian. That's different.
Yeah.
I mean, you had to see that coming, JD, right?
Yeah, no. I was expecting something, like anytime you try to stop eating any kind of meat, people get a little freaked out or like a little, but so a lot of big health things have happened in my family in the last year, and I'm a very heavy guy. I've seen probably the closest physical equivalent of myself just go totally downhill. So I'm going to try to go pescatarian, and barring that, I'm going to completely cut out red meat. Make a dietary effort to lose some weight. I'm also going to do my darndest to be the most athletic or fit freelancer with that little thing we got going starting January 4th. Just plugging that real quick. But really want to try my best to lose some weight and reduce the risk of quite a few things. Also, fish oils, very good for preventing strokes, as I found out in the last few months. So
very cool.
We support
you.
Fish oil.
We support you in this, JD. So Mike, do you make New Year's resolutions?
I tend to not make resolutions.
You make goals?
I do have goals. I do have
What's
goals
some of your goals for
monthly
this
to
year?
try to do stuff. I'd like to be taller, so we'll see how that goes.
Certainly that's possible.
We'll see how that goes.
Anything's possible.
I'd like to be more thoughtful, and I try to be in my profession and in my life at home with kids. I try to be more thoughtful and not to be so quick to jump to conclusions and give people a chance to explain themselves and just a little bit more thoughtful that way. So I think I could say that would be one of my goals that I'm currently trying to work on now. And yeah,
Cool.
I mean,
I
and
support
there's also,
you in this.
and thanks, Steve. Appreciate you.
You're welcome. Yeah, I'm being thoughtful too. I'm being
Great,
supportive.
man. I love it, dude. I love
This
it.
is how you start out.
This is how you start. This is how we start.
He's
This is
testing
how
your
everybody
thoughtfulness right now.
He is testing
My-
me.
My
I got lots
resolutions
of
are
things I could
that
say.
we'll hit episode 130 at least before we shut this whole thing down. So, so with the new year, So we have an opportunity to, I guess, make a couple predictions. We've made predictions for 2.0 Complex. Do you have any predictions for what's going to happen with Anthem this year, with Anthem 2.0, or whether it's what other event we get after Ice Tide, since we haven't really heard of anything coming up next? Do you have any predictions for Anthem for this
I don't
year?
I don't necessarily have predictions. Does like a wish list count instead,
That
or
definitely counts. You can predict your
um
wish list.
so I'd love to see a change to the inscription system with 2.0. I have a hard time. Like a lot of people on stream were like, "Hey, what's your build?" and stuff like that. And with the way the random rolls and the inscription system works, it's really hard to share a build because my, renewed courage might do a crazy amount of damage because I got a god tier roll, but somebody else's, maybe a trash roll. So they're like, that gun is trash. And it's like, it's not trash. I just happen to have a really good roll versus you. So if there's a way we can either like slot in and out different inscriptions, or if we can re-roll particular stats or something like that, something to make it more viable. So in that way you can tell somebody this is the build that you need, and then you just need to get this, this, and this, or like a modding system or something like that. That's
Yeah, and
what
I
I
think
want.
that, and I think that's something that the whole community wants, because you're right. It's impossible to say this is my build, you go get it, because no one else can get it. Because
Exactly.
chances are you're gonna get, resource pickup on 2 of your 4 inscriptions, and that's gonna like break your build. And it's terrible when you're like, oh,
Yep.
that gun's really good, but my gun is really bad because I have a really big pickup radius, but that doesn't really do anything for me on, at GM3. So hopefully that's something that we're getting. I can't imagine, if they are working on 2.0, that their loot system is not something that they're completely rehauling.
Yeah, the
Because
loot
it would
system
be
has got to
I
be.
mean, it has
Yeah.
to be. So
it would be insane if they released 2.0 and didn't change it. So
Yeah, not just and like like just inscriptions overall. I'm just not a fan of random rolls. I think that that's more than anything what I've learned from the first year in Anthem is I really don't like random rolls.
I think I like random rolls in the sense that it gives you excitement when you actually see something. But there has to be a balance between the random and the things that you can control.
Right.
And I think Diablo strikes a pretty good balance with that, with a lot of their stuff, because for the most part, they're legendary weapons. You know what this weapon is going to do. Plus, it has a couple extra stats on top of it that gives you reason to grind. So, and for the amount of talk that they talked about when the game up before it was launched, they talked about Diablo 3 a ton because they never wanted to say Destiny for some reason. That was the bad word around the studios if you mentioned Destiny. But so I'm hoping that it becomes a little bit more Diablo-esque in that sense, to where, you know what, it's still going to be new, but you know that, hey, this is the item I need in order to make this build work. So
Right.
hopefully we'll get news about that. I don't know. We'll probably have to wait until EA Play of this year before we hear anything about 2.0 is my guess. That's what they did last time. They waited a whole year after revealing it at E3, and the next time we heard anything about it was at EA Play the following year. So
I hope we don't have to wait that long.
I
Really don't want to wait that long. I mean, like I'm wondering though, is there something that's going to come after Ice Tide, or is it just going to be like Ice Tide and then wait for 2.0? Like it would make
No,
sense that something happens after Ice Tide. You know what I mean? Like something big
Yeah.
happens. It feels
what
like
it's gonna do, I don't know.
Ice Tide and Season of Skulls both feel filler, like they're leading up to something, but what? I don't know. So
Yeah,
So,
I mean,
so my thoughts are, because go ahead, Devin.
well, I wrote something down for later to talk about it, but really, I mean, both of these feel exactly like you said, kind of like filler, which would be perfectly fine if the game was successful. I mean, it's successful, right? But it's not like hugely popular like Destiny is, right? Or something like that, where it's a healthy game, and they're like, okay, we have this big stuff coming later, and in between then we're gonna put out these events to keep coming back
Right.
to play. Because right now there's just no idea what's coming, when it's coming, and that's kind of their, based on what they've been doing, is basically just dropping it on us and not really telling us about it till afterwards. And so, I don't know. I mean, it's difficult. I mean, they're kind of in a bad place no matter what they do, whether they try and tell us, whether they don't tell us. People are just, it's the internet. So, but I mean, it's definitely hard.
I don't know if
I mean,
I don't know.
they
You
flip
can
out.
say something.
Yeah, I mean, you can say
Right.
something, but it's their choice to not to, and that's what they're going with right now. But I mean, you're gonna have almost a year of filler. You know, I mean that's tough. When I mean,
But at
So
the
I-
same time, like I get why they're not saying anything though.
Yeah, no, I
At
mean-
the same time, with the way the community
Yeah.
handled everything at the beginning, why would you put yourself in that position? That's working against yourself in that regard.
it is.
Well, but I think the
still
big thing
feel
there
like-
is to get it worked out to where you're at least saying the right stuff. I mean,
Right.
you're right at the beginning. It was not good, and our pendulum has swung to the other end of things.
It went
We-
too far the other way. Like
Exactly. We need that person in the middle who's going to say, "All right, guys, Ice Tide is moving along. Here's a little bit of what's next." I mean, you don't sell the farm. You don't tell us all the troubles you're having. You say, "This is where we want to go," and you have to build that relationship back that has been crushed since all of their communication woes, and most people understand that. But I think you're right. I think that when the community gets toxic, it's really hard to stay in, and most people will opt for, okay, hands off. You guys will just get what you get, and I
and
think
say
we've
thank
kind
you,
of
and that's it.
exactly, and I think we've created this issue for ourselves in wanting to know what's
Absolutely.
going on, but
I
still,
don't-
a community can't be left to. I mean, you can't just leave us to hang out and
I-
dry. I mean, there's got to be something.
Yeah, I've said it on multiple occasions, both before the what was it, EA Play 2018, before the launch of the game and everything. Just you don't have to overpromise or overhype something, and just saying something isn't necessarily hype, but if you don't control the narrative surrounding a game in some way, shape, or form, it spins out of control. And that's probably one of the worst things about the overly toxic response to Anthem, is that it's kind of continued because of the radio silence and BioWare just doing what they're doing. Because the whole thing is that like the toxic people right now are going to be the de facto loudest because they're the only ones really saying anything, and it's just not building up to anything that's as advantageous as it could be for BioWare. They don't have to say a lot.
I mean, I think a lot of the toxicity
BioWare cut
has
his fiber
gone.
line.
Yeah, BioWare cut the fiber cable. I think that a lot of the toxicity is gone just because there's not much going on, so there's not much to be toxic about. I mean, for the most part, Reddit, the EA forums, it seems pretty. People have the desire for the game to be better, and there are a lot of people coming in. There's a lot of people asking for, hey, how do you do this? How do you do this? There's a lot of people complaining that new people don't know how to do the puzzles in the strongholds, but that just comes with, a new player base coming in. So, you can't do much about that. So I am actually impressed with the amount of, there hasn't been as much toxicity as there was in the beginning, whether because their approach is working, that they're just not going to say anything, so no one has an opportunity to be toxic, or just because the only people that care are people that actually like the game now. So those are the people that have stuck around. Maybe that's what they wanted. I'm not sure. But it does suck that they're not saying anything, because I really don't think that we have anything else until 2.0. Everything that we've gotten so far, we knew that they were going to do the seasonal events until the end of the year. And then after that, they said, you know what, when we have something, we'll show it to you. And we've gotten everything that they've talked about. And I don't know whether that's me just being like pessimistic or, being fatalist on it, but I don't think we have anything else until we hear about 2.0, because I don't know what they could do. I mean, we get a cataclysm back, because so far we've had 2
No,
repeat
please no.
cataclysms.
Please no.
And I agree,
Please
that would be
no.
the
I
worst
can't.
idea.
I can't do
But it-
Kelrick one more time.
But it also seems like, that was their go-to. It's like we got a reskin right after the cataclysm, and luckily we got the strongholds, but that's also something that was already in existence that they didn't have to build from scratch.
They didn't even
So-
redecorate or anything like they did with Season of Skulls
Yeah.
either.
Which is super weird.
Mhm.
Because
That's
the
actually
tyrant
my first
mine,
comment about it.
yeah, that layer in the tyrant mine from Season of Skulls, that at least had other things going on, but in Ice Tide there's nothing in there. So that just makes me, it leads me to believe that something happened during the development of Ice Tide, that they were either rushed, something happened that people had to pick up the slack and just finish it to get it out there. And that's probably why we had a lot of issues with challenges tracking, because there wasn't a lot of time. And they might not even have enough people to do this because a lot of people are working on 2.0 is my guess. But it just seems like there are some issues going into Ice Tide, and I don't know what they do after this, because there's no lead up to anything. We know the Urgoth are going to come back, but the last time we had, word
But
about
are
the
they?
Urgoth.
I mean,
Do we? Do we know
mean,
that?
That's what was.
I mean,
really
we had
have
a
to be.
physical Urgoth show up.
I mean,
ish
that's
then,
yeah.
but it was
implied,
there.
But they can go
Yeah.
whatever. We don't know what they're gonna go with. I mean,
That was
mean-
a dream. That was a dream. You don't
Unless-
remember
Mario
that.
It was a
It's not
fever
Mario
dream.
2.
That was a
Unless
dream.
that
You're-
one, the head of the freelancers, who, by the way, kind of looks a little bit like Casey Hudson, unless he
Yes.
made it all up and we were in a drug-induced haze.
It was
I mean,
in
I
a
don't know.
snow globe.
Yeah,
all
and
in the
Mr.
mind.
Adams is
It was all in the
100%
mind of a
based on Casey.
2-year-old.
And I hope it was. I want there to be something. I really do, because
Well,
going from
But
this,
you can want in one hand, and
Yeah.
and what else in the other hand? What else do I do?
you know what you can do in the other hand.
No,
That's-
that's-
and that's
this
and that's
was
the
real
problem.
weird, Mike.
That's the state that we're in, is that we thought we were getting Urgoth, but I would be hard pressed.
Well-
I'm not holding my
Right.
breath. It's not,
I mean, we know they
No, we have to
recorded
get
new
rid of
stuff for
Urgoth.
story content,
but
right?
we
I mean,
don't, Steve.
They showed it
So
off on
so think
Twitter.
about everybody that has left since then, and
Okay.
just the direction that the game is in now. I don't know if we're gonna get anything before 2.0, and I don't even know what 2.0 is gonna hold, because
But I don't think writers have left.
Yeah, none of the
We
writers
have-
left that we know of, I think, right?
Yeah, the
I mean,
only,
like,
we know all
you
the
got
only
to stuff
writer-
like that is still there.
the
yeah.
only writer that I know of that left was Drew Karpyshyn, and he
That
only
was a
got to
long.
Yeah, like
Yeah,
that.
Cam-
He came in, he did his piece, completed it, and then he left.
And then
I'm
peaced
not even
out.
sure what he did. But
I'm out. Mic drop.
I'm
No.
out. I'm done.
I'm out.
So Cameron Dayton just recently left, and he was
Wait,
one of the
he
lead
did?
writers. Yeah, he's
Oh,
gone.
wait,
he's back in the
what?
States. So Cameron
had no
left
idea.
last month, I think, after they finished. I'm guessing the last time he worked on it, because I actually got to talk to Cameron quite a bit when he was still working on it, and then recently he's no longer with BioWare. So,
Oh, wow.
So he's gone. A lot of the live service team has taken over. So I don't know how many. I think Austin is leading up 2.0, because I don't think Edmonton has much to do with it. We still have a lot of the Ice Tide stories that are coming in from Karen Weeks, Jay Watamanayuk, and Ryan. So we still have that team working on it, but I don't know who's going to be in charge of the lore going forward for 2.0. So it's very possible that things have been rewritten. I don't think they have been, because last time, they were under crunch and things had to get rewritten. We ended up with Anthem 1.0 that we had. So I don't know. I don't think they scrapped the Urgoth. That would be
I don't
insane
think they can afford to, because I think the Urgoth is, the Urgoth could be a really big thing to like open up 2.0 or whatever else big update comes down the road. Just the Urgoth invading would be huge, especially it would be weird, especially with the Paladin lore that we got, given that the Paladins are what the Dominion, like where the Dominion came
Mhm.
from. And considering that the Urgoth are at that border and that's where they're kind of rolling in from, it would be really weird if we got all that lore, we understood the Dominion a little bit better with Vara, with Harkin, knowing that Harkin's been up there that whole time too, on and off, knowing that the Monitor was the bad guy for the original part of the story. It would just, the
It was
Urgoth would
one of
make
the
sense.
monitors, right?
I mean, so
Right, yeah, because the Monitor's a distinction, not a person.
So Complex is
Yes.
as someone who has played a bunch of the BioWare games. Do you kind of
Yes.
feel like the Dominion are going to be Anthem's version of like the Geth, where basically like they are primary enemy starting off, but we just really misunderstand them and what's going on with them? Or?
Honestly, like it could go that way. They could go that way, or they could go the Cerberus way. They could go.
Oh.
They could really go either way. What I think is really going to determine things is how much influence Harkin has in the end. I love how twisted Harkin kind of came off right at the end, where literally everything that we did in the Cataclysm was an experiment for him on us. Like, we are the most interesting thing to Harkin in the universe right now, is how it came off. And I'm very, very curious to see where that goes, because that's almost like Elusive Man-esque. Like, you can kind of see the
Yes.
Elusive Man in Harkin. And then from there, Vara was played so badly, and like your heart kind of breaks for her. Because I mean, think about it. She lost her brother.
Yep.
And then like I made this argument in my in one of the lore videos I did recently, where I think that what Vara was doing was almost trying to teleport the Dominion to somewhere else safer from the Urgoth invasion.
Yeah, it
So like
definitely
that's what the
seemed like
Cataclysm was. Like it was meant to be a haven for the Dominion.
it definitely seemed like Vara was more like rescue her people instead of Harkin is just like
Mhm.
let's use people as guinea pigs, because I don't even think Harkin is like I don't know. At the end cutscene of the Cataclysm, when he's just walking around Fort Tarsus and no one seems to even notice him, it makes you wonder like if he's even there, if he's invisible. I don't know. It's really weird because like Harkin is the most interesting villain that we have, just because there's so many questions around him. But that's got to be like between Vara and I forget the monitor's name, but that's got to be some weird like
Armis.
family reunions. Armis, yeah. Like going to like dinner over at your parents' house with Vara and Armis, like hanging out. That's got to be really weird.
That
But
yeah, I don't even know if the parents are in the picture anymore, to be honest. Like I think they moved past that.
But I also don't think JD the Dominion are like, oh, they're good people all the time. They straight up like raised a bunch of cities and just like murdered a bunch of people, and they make Fury. So
that's not what the Geth are either. Like the whole thing is that the way how they usually do it is that like enemies are complicated. There's good and
There's
bad people.
multiple like sides to every person.
Yeah, and so like I'm not gonna go into full here, but the whole thing is that like it's just that we don't fully understand it and just blanketly assuming that they are all our enemies and they are all threats. They are all the same. Kind of dumb. So
yeah, that wouldn't be like. You can also see that though, like in Dragon Age with the Templars, like in DA2, they really pushed hard that like Templars are quote unquote evil, but then when you really start to dissect the story and you start to see the other sides, and then especially in DAI when you get to know Cullen and some other like ex-Templar stuff like that, you see like, oh, there is a whole other side to this story that we never learned, and now that I do, I'm looking at DA2 completely differently. So
or just look at all of Loghain. Like
right, like there's a lot to Loghain there. Like we're not
no.
Story for an entirely different, but
time.
So I feel like with the Dominion, especially the fact that they resonate from the Paladins, I'd be very, very, very interested to see if maybe one day we get an offshoot from the Dominion that's more harkened to the Paladins, or maybe the Paladins still exist and we just don't know it. That would be really interesting.
I would think that the Paladins wouldn't really have much to do with the Dominion in their current state, just because it seems like there had to be some crazy divergence somewhere in their history in that 500 years that the Paladins are like, yeah, I don't think we're going to go murder people and just start activating relics. So, and I would like to see that. I wish we had more of it, because right now the Dominion are just like, hey, we're the enemy. We shoot you whenever we see you. Yeah. And we're the bad guys because we're doing weird experiments. But if there was more depth to that story, it would be nice to see that.
Yeah,
but currently in the lore that we have is just, we're the bad guys.
We did the experiment for BioWare.
Yeah, I feel like it's almost a given that it's going to be a lot more complicated than they're just the bad guys, because that's just the way how BioWare rolls.
Yeah, it's surface level, and then all of a sudden you get dropped with this bomb, and you're like, oh, okay, well there we are. Now we're here.
Yeah. So this
as an outsider that doesn't have much BioWare baggage, I don't know if this is the same BioWare that was able to do that with the other games, because it seems like Anthem is such a different beast.
But it still has a lot of the same writers. Well, I mean, not a bunch of them, but they're there.
But writers and time and deadlines.
Oh, everybody changes and evolves as they grow. But
yeah,
I don't know if we would have gotten all that Paladin lore if they weren't the same, or at least had I don't know if they were the same, but the potential to be the same. Like, I mean, that whole set of Paladin lore from Season of Skulls was gut-wrenching in a lot of ways, but also gave a greater understanding of what happened after Helena Tarsus died and everything like that. So, like, if they, and like everything that we learned from the Bard through those trials, like, there's a lot there. Even the Mad Prophet showed that there's still, like, pieces of that BioWare. So, if they can rein that in and bring that back...
And I think that
delivered in a different way than just written text. So
I mean, you can definitely, I don't know, and this might just be me looking too far into it. I'll tell you what I'm trying to say, because like lore wise, like it's my jam. I love it, but there seems to be a point in when you're reading the lore where you're like, okay, this is going somewhere, and then a lot of the lore just stops. And then we get like notes about, how much cargo was on this strider when it went down. And that stuff is cool, learning about the daily life of people that live in Bastion. But like even the text, like the text we were able to translate from the beta, right? We got the beta, we wrote a cipher, all the in-game text we translated the notes so that it actually read something from Latin into English. And then with a cataclysm, that stopped. Like all of a sudden, none of that text translated anymore.
Right.
So is it like, okay, are we saving resources in the team and not focusing on stuff like this anymore? Is the lore going, taking a back seat to fixing the game?
I mean,
And
it would make
unfortunately-
sense though that if that's what it is, if the lore is taking a backseat for the moment. I mean, you've got to save the game because you need a bigger player base in order to support the fact that you want to write more lore and more stories.
Right.
If you don't have a player base, but like way back when they were still doing Twitch streams, they had booked, like, I forget who was it, Ben Irving or something like that, like somebody, or when they had like some of the other devs on, they had mentioned like they have changes that they want to make, but they can't just go from point A to point B, that they have to do the stuff in like increments or whatever, almost alluding to the fact that like, yes, they know like the loot system is broke AF,
Yeah.
but they can't just change it.
Well,
like they had to, like
Yeah.
they have to do other things, alluding to the fact that there is that kind of like big 2.0 something coming. So hopefully that is actually true, because I mean they haven't confirmed anything, so
their biggest
speculation.
problem is the game engine that they're using, and with all the tools and everything else, it's just, I mean, it makes a real nice looking game, but it's not meant for what they were trying to do. I mean, it was built to do first person shooters, to do Battlefield games, and they've struggled, and then also it doesn't help when EA takes all your good developers that have experience with the engine and puts them on FIFA, their moneymaker, but when they switch to everybody to using the same engine. But I think that's a huge problem, and a huge part of their problem was getting over the problems with the game engine and just having to build all the tools internally into the actual game engine on how to do that, how to do the things that are just commonplace and already there in like Unreal Engine 4 or Unity,
and that's why most likely 2.0 is going to be a brand new game. It's not even going to be, we're going to have Anthem as we have it now, and 2.0 will be something brand new. That's my guess, because with all the issues that they had during the challenges, not being able to update them, trying to patch them, and then breaking, that sounds like back-end code issues that, if you can't update this to change it, you kind of have to start over. So anyway, let's talk about the Scar Mine, because as much as I want to talk about the lore, it just depresses me because I want so much more. I want a Paladin Javelin. Why do we not have that? And I don't think we're ever going to get it, unfortunately. I just want a Paladin. I want a sword, really, is what I want from this game. If Helena Tarsis had a sword and she could wield
Doesn't
it.
the Ranger have a sword?
He's got a mace.
shock mace.
So technically
And
a
Vera
mace.
had a spear.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mace.
Vara had a spear. Well,
yeah. She did. They were the wings or whatever. They have the spear. So Complex, you did a great write up on the Scar Mine. That was the stronghold that we had previously. This week we went back to the Heart of Rage. Do you want to hit some like quick highlights on finishing those extra puzzles that people might not know about if they are coming to the game for the first time? Maybe they got it for Christmas because they got it on sale. But what are some of those challenges that are like, hey, if I'm running the Scar Mine for the first time, what should I be looking out for?
So are we talking Heart of Rage or Tyrant Mine?
Let's go Tyrant Mine, then let's go Heart of Rage. Just because I imagine Tyrant Mine will come back in rotation again. So
Tyrant Mine is a beast. Like, I'm not gonna lie, it's probably it was my least favorite out of all three that we've had so far. There's so much verticality. It is so easy to miss the plushies. Like, that is bar none. And that the plushies kind of depend on getting that 16x multiplier. If you don't get all three plushies plus the last one at the end, you're not gonna get to 16x at the end.
So are they always in the same location? The plushies?
No, they move. They move. Like, some people have said that there are 5 spots for the plushies. I don't know if there's actually 5, if there are more or less, but you've got to look. They're like hidden, though. Like, hidden. We found once it was like tucked away in a back wall in between 2 boxes where like somebody got stuck in our squad and found it on accident. Like
Oh.
literally, like if you can't find it, it is there. You just have to look. So any room that will spawn the mini boss, which you'll know a room's gonna spawn a mini boss with the bonus multiplier. Anything that has that will have the plushie, and that's the key. So and then it's knowing the right order to do things. You want to do mini boss, finish the event, then get the plushie, because otherwise you're gonna not be maximizing your time to the best of your ability, kind of thing.
And as you get those, then you get to see the Grab It King, or I guess it's not.
It's a
Is it
golden
the Grab
Grab
It King? The Golden Grab
Golden
It.
Grab It. Cataclysm, we had the Grab It King, which oddly enough, I kind of think that that's probably eventually we're gonna find out that's a bedtime story or something like that from Vara.
You think so? That there's going to be something more with it?
I think that like for the Cataclysm, I think a lot of the things that we learned from Vara were almost like parts of her memory. So I think Kellerick Castle was something from a childhood story, and I think the Grab It King was also something from like a childhood story or something like that. Because I think in order to build the Cataclysm, it pulled on like subconscious, very emotional memories and stuff like that, and that's how we got those. So, which is kind of cool.
I can dig it. I can dig it. So is there the Tyrant Mine? It doesn't have a symbol matching puzzle like the Heart of Rage or
no. That one had my least favorite puzzle, which was like you have to get everything lit up blue at the bottom of like the last area, almost right before you hit where the Golden Grab It will spawn. It's one of those things where like you step on it, and I showed it in the video. When you step on it, the tiles adjacent to it horizontally and vertically will change to the opposite color of what they are. So you basically just have to keep stepping on them until you get them all like the blue color. We saw that puzzle a lot in DA2. There was a couple different instances of it. DAI had that for, oh gosh, something else. But yeah, like they're very fond of that puzzle.
So what do you think about the puzzles that they've added in? Do you think it adds to the strongholds? Do you think it takes away and it's just kind of a time sink? What's your opinion on the puzzles?
I like in theory. In theory, I very much like these puzzles because I feel like they're a lot more solo and individual player friendly, like in theory. Because a lot of people I think came into Anthem having been previous BioWare fans, where we're all used to playing like MEAMP or ME3MP or DAIMP, where we don't need to like kind of depend on our team as like coordinating wise. Like everybody knew their job. If it was defend this, you defended it. If it was a, disarm this, you disarmed it, and then there were like the waves of enemies, stuff like that. So the Cataclysm was a bit of a culture shock in that there wasn't really enough of that like self-sufficiency stuff, and a lot of it was like dependent on you talking to each other. And I feel like with this season of Ice Tide, they tried to make it more what we used to have, but these puzzles, people don't know that they exist and then blow past it. But the people that do know that it exists get frustrated because they're like, I need these points, and the answer is private lobbies. We need private lobbies. More than anything, Anthem needs a private lobby. Like we could do that in an ME3, MEAMP week. You could go in and do a private match. You could try to solo a platinum match in ME3MP, and people had succeeded. Like if I want to do that in Anthem in a stronghold, I should have the opportunity to try to solo a GM3 stronghold.
And you saying that, Complex, it just, it makes me realize that the people that are still playing the game, it seems like we all want the same thing. A lot of games, we really, the player base will diverge between, no, we want this, no, we want it like this. But it seems like anyone we talk to, we all hit on the same points. Fix the loot system, give us private lobbies, give us more lore. So it's like, it just makes me feel good. It's like, okay, I think we're all hitting on the same wavelength here.
You're not crazy. I promise. There's a lot of us that want to just like, and it would make things a lot easier too, especially people going for score or just going for loot runs or what have you. Like you should be able to queue up for pubs, or you should just be able to go in solo.
It's almost like you're playing the same game that I'm playing. What is this?
Wait, what?
What?
I was playing earlier today and 2 times in a row, Heart of Rage. I was doing the puzzle. It's not really a puzzle, but just putting in the echoes after the Titan. And twice, the randoms were just taking them out of the spots and putting them over, and just taking them away and dropping them off like regular. And I'm just like, oh my gosh.
Nice. But like in theory, though, that puzzle to spawn the mini boss is individual like solo player, I'm playing in a pub group friendly, because other people can be just killing everything, and then you can go off la-di-da and like pick up, you know what I mean, what you need, and like put it in, and then boom. So in theory it should work. It's
it should
just
work, but when they
this
just
is
take
like
them
an
out after you put them in
application.
every time, and then I turn around, I'm like, what the crap happened?
Yeah, they're
Well,
all
it-
gone. Boom,
Yeah, well,
done.
it's a communication problem to the player, right? Because it says 0 of
Yeah.
12 echoes delivered. So
Right.
normal players read that and say, "I have to deliver these. This other person's putting them in these other things, and nothing's happening, right?" So unless you're in the know, then it's just there's always been a communication problem for what do you want us to do in this certain instance. And I don't know how they figured it out. I mean, private
I
lobbies
mean,
is something that would be the
Private
easiest
lobbies would
solution.
solve a lot of problems
yeah,
quickly.
or
All the
or
hardcore
simply
players would
like
be
a
able to,
bonus
you know,
objective, you know.
yeah. And unfortunately, they don't tell you, what the bonus objectives are. Most people don't even know you can spawn bonus bosses unless they go find a video. And most people, unfortunately, aren't looking for videos.
They're just
But Mike,
running it like a regular, it's just good to
yeah,
go.
Mike, do you think the puzzles are challenging, or do you think they add anything into the strongholds?
I think that the puzzles are out of place in strongholds.
No, I
I
can see
think
that.
I think that they're fine in the Cataclysm because that's what the Cataclysm was built for. Just like Devon said earlier, the players are linear. I feel, and if it says put the echoes in the thing, then we're gonna put the echoes in the thing because we've done that before. It becomes
Habit.
just what you do. Yeah. So so I think in order for the puzzles to be more effective, they have to be put in events that are puzzle specific. I don't think that adding them to an existing encounter was the way that they should have done it, especially in a part where the echoes already had something to do in that arena.
Mhm.
They needed to go to a thing. Now, if you put echoes somewhere else, so thinking of Heart of Rage at the beginning, right after you cross the canyon and get to that first encounter area, put some
Yeah.
echo chambers there and have that do something, because nothing like that exists there. But when you're spawning the Furies, unless you're talking, unless all four of you know what's going on, then yeah, you're gonna either have that one player that's like, nope, these go here, got to get them there, especially if your team's just trying to go for a speed run, and I think the point is that there's too many moving parts for puzzles to be there. So my fix, if it were up to me, I would say, guys, we need to create these new levels, these new encounters where these puzzles can be more effective versus putting them in the stronghold. We can
I
make the
mean,
stronghold ice tide friendly by decorating it, skinning it, doing some other things. Pardon me. But I don't think they're as effective as they could be where they are.
yeah, because I would really love for something like this to be in free play, to where you are going out and you're just doing your dailies and you come across one of these tiles and you're like, oh, there's a tile here. What do I have to do with this?
Oh
And kind of
yeah.
leads you, and it gives you your own time, because generally there's 4 people in free play, but you're off doing your own thing. So it gives you time to explore. You don't have a clock that's saying, hey, do this now, do this now. It kind of just feels like, oh, there's a puzzle in the world. Now I got to go figure out what to do with it. So that seems like
Yeah.
that would be a perfect place for that to happen. I don't even know if that's something that they could do, honestly, the way
I
the game currently is.
I do kind of feel like, especially given how fun Anthem's gameplay, like combat, actually is. Uh, like I do kind of feel like certain puzzles are just wildly out of place in like fights. Like
Yep.
it's just like the whole thing is that like one of Anthem's greatest strengths is how fun the combat gameplay is. Like the flying, the combat, how great that is, how great that feels. And then when you throw in a puzzle that actively forces you to stop the natural flow of combat, to do this like weird puzzle, like they can be very interesting puzzles, like in like a non-combat situation. But I just feel like it actually, like certain types of their puzzles are a little bit counterintuitive to one of their best assets in terms of the quality of the game, if that makes sense.
It
Nope,
does. No,
I
it
agree.
does. I mean, the thing is though, the Anthem community for a long time has been asking for a horde mode. Like,
Yes.
and that's the thing though. Once again, like I hate repeating myself, but I'm gonna do it. Coming from like MEAMP and ME3MP, where a lot of it horde mode, and it was entirely enjoyable because MEA, despite its flaws, which I love that game, but it did of course have its flaws.
Yes.
It has incredible combat. The combat felt so good, and the different load orders that you could do in the multiplayer felt phenomenal. And I just wish Anthem had these tight maps with that style of mission, so then that way you could get in, get out, and not spend too long. The other thing is the strongholds just take a long time, especially these seasonal ones. Like we don't have that in the middle, like Destiny has like their raids, and then they have their strikes, and then they have their like equivalent of like free play stuff. We don't have that in the middle strike thing. You know what I mean? Like it just everything takes a long time, which then I don't blame people for speed running stuff, because like who wants to spend 20 minutes to a half hour, 45 minutes even doing one run of a stronghold that you know like the back of your hand just to get a few extra crystals?
Right.
Well, and you have to, and players are trying to min-max their time and saying, I've got to do this run X amount of times to even get something good. And
Right.
and it's that payoff, it's that cost, that investment time ratio that yeah, let's just go through it and get it done. I don't care if these echoes go here. I'm gonna finish the encounter. Hopefully the chest is good at the end. If not, I'm gonna have to start again.
Or if not, you still got the crystals, so I'm gonna go spend them at Herschel's store anyway. So if why
Yeah.
spend an extra 10 minutes to get maybe an extra 200-300 crystals when I could instead cut this time in half, rinse and repeat, and then get triple the amount?
Word.
Right.
Yeah.
Time is
And I
definitely an
think-
issue in the game, right?
Yeah, and speaking of time, so Complex, I told you we do this for 45 minutes. We've gone a
Yes.
little bit over. Are you okay? Do you need to go, or do you?
No, I'm good. I'm good for a little bit longer.
Okay, very cool. I wanted to respect your time
appreciate
and
that.
not suck you
Thank
into
you.
2 hours of us talking about. Anyway, so one of the other things that I wanted to touch on, because there has been rumor and speculation that there are 2 challenges that are question marked out, and whoever's banging on that keyboard, like, just take it easy on the keyboard, it'll be okay. There are 2
That
challenges
was
that are
not me, for the
question.
record.
There are 2
Mike.
challenges that are question marked out right now. That there's been speculation in data mine. So Chaos Prime from YouTube, friend of the show, has said that he speculates that these are for getting the puzzles, so the match game puzzle and the puzzle in Tyrant Mine. I don't even know what you would call that puzzle. It's just another put this thing randomly in this place and get it right. Speculates that if you get this right randomly the first time, like perfect without messing up, then it unlocks a challenge. I think that's an insane idea, and if any developer like were to create something like that as
I
a
would
challenge,
cry.
would yeah, like I mean, because the chances of you getting that correct seem astronomical to me. So I hope it's not that. So Complex, you think it's tied to
I think it's
the
tied to
Tyrant Mine?
Tyrant Mine. Yeah, because like there's nothing for Tyrant Mine right now in the challenges. And when we first loaded in day 1 for Ice Tide, there was one challenge that was like complete the 3 like initial strongholds, and it listed the 3 that
Right.
we already have. Nothing about Tyrant Mine ever. So my speculation is that it's going to be Tyrant Mine related. It's just whatever the obligatory here, complete it, get 500 crystals kind of challenges.
Gotcha.
So, I'm
Unless
kind
they
of-
completely scrap Tyrant Mine.
Yeah, so I'm
I
of the
hope
same
not.
mind, but I also think that they weren't done with putting anything into Tyrant Mine.
But we
That's
had it
why
on the
I-
PTS.
Yeah, I mean they threw something together and it wasn't working. But
I think that the PTS was, I mean, my guess after having played the other 3 is they probably thought Tyrant Mine was too easy, and now they're reworking. Like,
yeah, I mean that's
Tyrant
what
Mine wasn't
my-
frustrating.
Yeah, it's like, okay, we have to redo this, and so we're gonna put the other ones in, and we're gonna work on it, and then we'll eventually put those in. And so I'm guessing there'll probably be another update before the event's over to include whatever they're doing for Tyrant Mine. That's my guess. But-
I mean,
Yeah.
that's definitely not out of the realm of possibility.
Yeah.
So I also want to ask you guys, what do you think about the cheating that is? I don't know if I should even say cheating. Let's call it exploiting, right? Because
Exploitation.
cheating
Exploit.
cheating
Definitely
makes it
exploit.
sound a lot worse. So people are exploiting vulnerabilities in the maps and able to skip certain sections to get gold orbs earlier, than come back and they're able to kill enemies and get higher points for the leaderboards. So BioWare hasn't said anything about people that have been doing this. I mean, this happened in the Cataclysm. There are
Yeah, this is
exploits that you
nothing
could
new.
do fighting Vara there, and that extended into Season of Skulls, and now it's here on Icetide. I guess my big question is, do you guys even care that this is happening? Does anyone care about the top spots in the
No.
leaderboards?
No.
I don't think any of us on the show care.
I'm
'cause
sure
none of us
some
are-
people do.
are
Somebody
working for
does.
the leaderboards, but definitely people.
Yeah.
A small, very small, minute group care.
I think this is a
about
symptom of the community being bored, though. If we're getting up, like, as a community, if they're getting up in arms over the fact that, like, there's this going on, that people are exploiting glitches, that just means the community's bored. In my mind, it's not necessarily the glitches; it's that there's nothing more to care about than the fact that somebody's glitching to get top of the leaderboard because we're bored.
And there's no sanctity in having, like, oh, I got the top spot. This is like, look at this awesome rewards trophy that I was given.
Yeah,
right? Because I
there's
can see,
nothing.
like, right, because in Destiny 2, I mean, getting worlds first in a raid,
That's
or
a big
even in
deal.
World of Warcraft, I'm like, getting server first, like, that's huge. You have teams of people staying up, days sometimes trying to get
How-
these things done.
How many people?
Like
Teams.
teams of people, Mike. And
Teams of us.
so
There are dozens of
I mean,
us.
and that's a pretty big deal. And I wish Anthem had something like that. I hope in the future in 2.0 there are races for worlds first on these things, whether it's to get a leaderboard or to get a stronghold done. I don't know. I hope there's something like that the community gets excited about, because people that are grinding and getting like 15 million or whatever, or glitching through the map, it's like, I don't care that much. I'm
don't get
personally not
anything.
interested in chasing number one, the crystals that I don't even spend anymore, because what's the point of spending crystals? I guess, like, all of our stuff is going to be reset when 2.0 comes, so does our power level even matter anymore? Like, it all just seems like a moot point to me right now to even be chasing gear, just because it doesn't feel like there's going to be anything after this. It's like, why am I chasing this gear?
I'm actually
gonna
hoarding
help me
gear,
that
though,
much.
because I don't know what they're going to do. So what if they allow us to start pulling out inscriptions from other things and putting them into the current things? Or what if they allow us to, like,
No.
turn in certain things and, like, re-roll them? Or, like, what if you could turn a weapon into Serna and, like, get something for it or something like that? So I'm like, I hate hoarding things. I hate my inventory being over 250, but my inventory is sitting at 300 right now because I don't know what I'm going to need, and I want everything just in case.
Right. And as much as I would love all of that to happen,
We don't
like,
know what's going to happen.
and I honestly think, like, it's going to be a completely new game, so nothing is transferring over. Like,
It's gonna
I
be
don't.
like Destiny 2.
See,
All
I
your
don't
stuff
think
was lost.
I don't think we're gonna get a whole new game. I think it's gonna be an update. I don't think that if they, because they had said they're sticking with this game for a very long time. If we end up having to abandon what we have now, that's like, I can't even imagine how the core community is gonna react. I love my interceptor. She's my baby. I worked my ass off to get her where she is, and if I have to, like, abandon that, it's not gonna
I
sit
don't think you have
well.
to abandon it. I
Well-
just think everything that you know as the interceptor, besides the way it looks, is going to be completely different. I mean, it has to be
Right.
completely different. In order for the loot fixes to work, I mean, the whole system of besides the way your javelin looks, has to be completely different. It can still be an interceptor. You can still have all the look and style, but the whole system of their weapons and gear pieces and everything else, it all has to change to go into a new system, because everything about their current system is broken.
But my 600% plus melee.
It's gone.
And that,
I'm just
my 600%,
I hate
but
to tell you,
So I
it's
do-
gone.
my
So
600% pickup radius that I really love.
I
So, and this is just real quick, JD. Like, this is the big issue. If they could have fixed a lot of these issues in the current code that they have, they
They
would
would've.
have been doing that.
Unless
But
that's what they're
none of that
doing
has-
right now.
But if they're doing that now, I would assume that they would want to release some of that to us as quality of life updates, right? But none of that has happened. So in my pessimistic mind, I'm like, okay, they have to do something completely new, because if they could do it, they would have been doing it because we've been yelling at them for so long to like.
We have
to
mass
do it.
deletion though at the end of a mission.
That
so
is
like,
true, and that was pretty
at
awesome.
least we have that and 100 plus more inventory. There's something in there. We got
So-
some quality of life.
I
But
agree.
complex. I do
Yes.
have to ask though. Like you're all.
Ooh,
So
sorry,
Cutting
you
out
cut
there,
out.
JD.
What'd you say?
Oh, I was saying that you're also a player. So like the idea of a system already being in place and then just totally getting wiped and replaced by something either mildly or totally different, and then also being compensated for it in a way that is helpful to players. Like, isn't that something like we should kind of be used to at this point? Or, I mean, like they just did it with like the Melee 2.0 system, didn't they?
Yeah, but like Melee 2.0 happened in a way that made sense. Like my Orthos Prime build and everything like that was still very viable, kind of thing, you know? Like, and then they gave make goods, they gave Forma, they gave all this other stuff, so it totally
Yeah.
worked.
So
Like, if my interceptor stops being something that I can continually be melee heavy on, let's say, and I can't take my Deathstalker blades and have it make sense with the new overhaul, that's when I think we're going to have big problems. But if they can make everything make sense from what we have now and just transfer it over to a 2.0, then yeah. Like then that's like, you know, Warframe-esque. We're totally used to this kind of thing.
Yeah.
I don't think it's gonna work.
So
I
like,
think, you know,
is the make goods? Would the make goods be a good like stopgap then? Because
Yeah, it's gonna like depending on how much happens, there's gonna have to be a lot. Like the one thing that they're doing right with Warframe is that like when we got the 2.0 melee, there was a lot given to us to make that better. You know what I mean? Like to make that transition better. There were missions that we could do to test out our melee. We got Forma. We got just Forma in the mail. You know what I mean? Like there was a lot there to make that transition easier, especially if you've like formatted something like 100 times. So there's
Yeah.
going to have to be an equivalent of that for the current player base.
okay,
In my opinion, at least. Like, I mean, BioWare can obviously do whatever they'd like, but that's what I would like.
Based upon their actions of, you know, we're just not going to talk to you guys or tell you what's going to happen. I don't see them. I mean, or like, okay, all your crystals are disappearing, you know, or this and that. It's like you work towards all these crystals, you spend it or not. Or I could just see them say, hey, enjoy your javelins the way it is now. 2.0 is coming and everything's going to be different. And
But like the crystals make sense because it's a seasonal event. It's a seasonal currency.
yeah.
But
But when you
like
bring it back every
my
single
coin isn't.
season, it's like here's the same currency every season, but we're gonna. For those of you who
That's
actually played
weird.
a lot, we're just gonna. Delete
That's
it.
weird. I wish like Season of Skulls had been like a skull currency or something. Like crystals make sense because they're lore based, and like giving them to Herschel, there was an actual lore reason for it.
Yeah.
Crystals now in Season of Skulls and Ice Tide makes zero sense. It would have been better if it was like ice shards or like some kind of arcanist something.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's weird.
Yeah, and I guess my big question that I still have for everyone is, where's our dang featured store new armor that we're supposed to get for this event that started 4 weeks ago? We got data mined. It's
Last
the
week.
coolest looking armor set for the Colossus. That hands down. I mean, if I'm not a Colossus main, but I'll buy this thing for the Colossus because it looks amazing. I don't know if they're saving this so that like all their revenue can go into a new quarter. That's like why would you do this now? Because really, if like you want to get people excited, I mean, the Mass Effect armor's got tons of people excited. I'm sure they made bank just because people wanted to dress as a Krogan for a while. But like if this is the event, give us the armor at the beginning of the event so we can be excited and we can wear it throughout the event. But I don't know if it's just not ready or if they're just saving it. I'm not sure, but I really want it because I want to dress up my digital doll. That's really all I want to do, and I want to do it with the new
Steven
clothes that
likes
they're going to
dress up
give
his
us.
dolls. What can you say?
But
And I don't. I mean,
we
that's the
didn't
point,
get
right?
we didn't get the new weapons in the Cataclysm until the last couple weeks. It makes sense, but BioWare's quarter doesn't even end until the end of March. So Ice Tide will
They're
be
quarter
over.
4, right?
Right. So it wouldn't do anything for them as far as like that goes. I just think that they're waiting because they want people to keep signing back in to check back kind of thing because those numbers look good. So I just think they're waiting and they want people to do everything while waiting.
Yeah, but I don't know,
There's
because
just
then
not much incentive to do everything while you're waiting, with nothing.
Right, no,
really
there
to
isn't.
look forward to. It's just
because then you get your new clothes for your doll, and then the event ends and there's nothing new. So then what do? You just I guess I'll come back later. and then you got your new clothes on. But anyway, hopefully that will be coming out soon. We're in week number 4, so they said that during week number 5, when everyone's back for holidays, they're going to give us another update with whoever won week 2 and 3 for the leaderboard. So congratulations to those people whenever that's going to happen. So I mean, really that's all we have going for us right now for news Anthem wise. Nothing new has changed. There hasn't been any big updates. Oh, we did get one of the new lore stories from, I believe Karen Weeks released one today, and it's called Koroks in the Box, and it looks like it's a long form poem. So not a story, but it's more of a poem. So go read that. That's on the EA website for BioWare. So I really enjoy when they release that stuff. I enjoy reading more about the game. So hopefully they'll keep doing that, and we'll get more stuff, and hopefully it'll lead into whatever's coming next. I hope you're right, Complex, that there is something.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, we'll cross all the things that we can. So, but yeah, hopefully there'll be something coming up. I did have a quiz prepared, but I think we've taken up a lot of Complex's time, and we really appreciate you coming on to the show.
Thank you guys
Hopefully
for having me.
Yeah, hopefully we can do it again in the future. You can replace JD anytime. You just let me know, and we'll replace JD for local BioWare expert. But yeah, until next time, unless you guys have anything else you want to say, want to say thank you to all the people that are hanging out in chat on Mixer and on YouTube. We really appreciate our community. You guys are the reason that we keep doing this, because otherwise it wouldn't be as fun without people like Umbrella in the chat all the time talking to us. So the community is super important to us. We appreciate you guys a lot. Again, thanks, Complex, for coming on the show. Will you let people know that are still with us where they can find you, where they can follow you before we sign off?
Absolutely. So I am on YouTube. It is Food Then Games. Twitter is also Food Then Games, as well as Twitch, Food Then Games. I made it super easy. It's just Food Then Games. You'll find me.
Perfect. So until next time, there's a Shaper Storm on the horizon, and we'll see you on the other side.
Peace.
Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening. You can find us on Twitter at Freelancer Codex, on Facebook at Freelancer Codex, or through email at freelancercodex@gmail.com. Join the Discord through the link provided at freelancercodex.com. Our show will always be free, but if you'd like to send some support, you may do so at patreon.com/freelancercodex. Our individual Twitter handles are at Stephen Lamson, at mlamson25, at Neverfear, and at JD the Joke Dealer. Freelancers, it's time to get to work.